Hello everyone, this is Logan. And since I have no idea what a tech blog is, I figured the best course of predicting what could possibly happen at tomorrow's Apple event is to ask the one and only complete authority on Apple. Hey Siri, give us a hint.
Okay, here it is. 010001111 0110111 011101000 011000011 011010000 011000001.
Zero one one 00001. Oh man, I mean, like, what could this possibly be? I bet it's like code for force touch or professional or gaming as a reference to the new Apple TV or something like that. Oh man, what could this possibly be? All right, binary to text, and come on. Right, so now it is time for the September Apple event thingamajig. Woo! Woot woot. And with me is my special girlfriend slash second opinion, Teniesea. Say hi, Teniesea.
Hello everyone, this is Teniesea, not Logan.
Yeah, that's right. She's the inferior being. Anyway, let's move on to the first thing, which is, and I actually did write notes down, so hopefully it'll get a little bit quicker, but I'm not going to jinx anything. The Apple Watch. Not much has really happened. I guess they have some new bands now. There's like an aluminum thing. I don't know. Do you have anything to say about the Apple Watch, Tenny?
I think the Apple Watch is just starting to sprout, and they're not really making many modifications as of now. I feel like what they're doing is just trying to, like, explore the style, explore the way it is in order to assimilate to everybody's taste. And I feel like they need a little bit more time to, like, get used to what people want on that. I mean, it's a very... They'll figure it out.
Could you repeat the last thing? It just cut out. They need a little bit more time to figure things out. Is that what you said?
Yeah, they need a little bit more time to figure out how to work the watch.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of agree because, like, Apple usually knows how to see a trend and jump on the trend at just the right time. And now Apple is kind of starting to lose wind of that. For example, the iPhone. You know, smartphones, in the case of, like, BlackBerry and Windows Mobile, have been kind of popular in their own niche market for a couple years now. Apple came and completely revolutionized it. Now we have the smartwatch, which is something that I think a lot of people didn't really see a lot of potential in. And that's why the Android counterparts, like the Samsung Galaxy Wear, I think it's called, and then the G Watch, and then there's even the Pebble watch. There were a few different smartwatches before the Apple Watch, and they really didn't take off. Apple tried it, and as of right now, they still haven't really taken off. I know one person who owns an Apple Watch. Do you even know anyone with an Apple Watch, Tenny?
I don't personally know anyone, but I've seen people walking around with it. But of course, people in New York will try their best to get anything.
Yeah. Well, like, actually, this is kind of a diversion. I'm sorry for doing this, even though I promised it was going to be quicker. This is a kind of a personal side note. I went to Rite Aid yesterday, and this is about Apple Pay. I went to Rite Aid yesterday, and I saw a sign that says it is compatible with Apple Pay and Android Pay. And I was like, wow, this is like a rare specimen, something that adopts Apple Pay. See, this is the problem with Apple. They adopt a standard, and for like the first few seconds, it looks cool, and then you realize, like, oh wait, what actual support is going to be on it? And they just kind of assume, like, you know, with the iPhone and the iPad, there's going to be a lot of support. And sometimes there really isn't. Like, with the Apple Watch, there's maybe about, I don't know, 1,000, probably less apps that are even compatible with it. Facebook Messenger is now just becoming one of them. So, Apple, you have some good ideas, don't get me wrong. It's just that, like, you have to make sure, you have to make it worthwhile for the developers, I believe. Tanny, agree or disagree?
I agree.
Okay. Next we have the iPad Pro. These are not in any kind of order. These are just, features as we were thinking of them. Four-sided speaker. I don't know how they're gonna pull that off. I mean, like, how can you really... Well, first of all, I should mention the biggest feature that I didn't even write down on the notes. It is a much bigger iPad. It is 12.9 inches, so almost 13 inches. And I don't know if that's too big for an iPad. I think it might be, because I know a lot of people who do not get even the regular iPad, the iPad Air, just because it is too expensive. Or, well, yeah, too expensive, but also too big at 9.7 inches. I think 12.7, and like, look, I realize that Apple basically is just making it taller and not really much bigger. But at the same time, I think it's still going to be a bit too big for a lot of people to use. Now, granted, professionals might like it, but then again, a professional is probably going to have a MacBook Pro, which is really a lot more capable anyway. So, I don't know. It's like this weird niche market. It's like, yeah, it's professional, and it's, you know, does a whole lot more stuff than the iPad does. And, you know, it's touchscreen, but then again, the MacBook Pro does even more stuff. And then again, I guess the MacBook Pro does cost more. What do you think of the iPad Pro?
The iPad Pro, in my opinion, I don't think they should be focusing on making it bigger because, I mean, they have the computer that's bigger, and I feel like each device should have its own specific kind of size. So if they're going to make a smaller MacBook and a bigger iPad, at some point, all of these devices are going to be the same size. So I feel like...
I kind of agree with that. Like, you know, Microsoft has a good idea with the Surface, and Apple refuses to acknowledge that. They keep saying, like, oh, well, if you know, you can't have a touch screen on a computer because if you do that, then your hand is going to be cramped by, like, doing this. Like, no, it's not. Tenny, you even have a touchscreen computer. Do you find it difficult to use?
Not at all. I don't use it too much, but I mean...
like, just make a touchscreen computer. That's all I'm asking. OS X especially is like, it's such a gesture-based operating system that it would work so well with a touchscreen. I don't know why Apple has not realized that computers should move into touchscreen territory. I honestly don't know, but I don't know, maybe I guess Microsoft has to prove that the Surface can sell, but then again, I guess Android and the Pebble didn't have to prove that the watches could sell in order for Apple to make their variant, which also really isn't selling that well. So, I don't know, like, I see the iPad Pro as something, like, I personally wouldn't like, but at the same time, I can see it having its own following. for the pro market, I just don't think I could be a part of it. That's just my personal opinion. Yeah, so the 4 speakers, look, it's a 13-inch thing, but it's still relatively small. I don't think it's big enough to a point where you can have a surround sound system. Or, I don't know, maybe. Here's the thing. The iPad has stereo speakers on the bottom, but they do not have a lot of stereo separation because the speakers are so close together. So this, I think, will at least give it stereo separation, but I don't know if the surround sound will really work too well. What else is there? New keyboard, yes. Apple is joining Belkin, Zagkey, and about 15 other developers in making well, not actually a Bluetooth keyboard. This is what they basically did. They basically have like their own proprietary connector, which is magnetic, and you connect it that way. Apart from that, though, it really doesn't do anything that a typical Belkin keyboard does, and it costs about $100 more than a regular keyboard. So just don't bother. I will say, even with that, like, these keyboards that I buy from Belkin and Zagkey and certain other companies, they are not built very well at all. I've gone through about 3 of those keyboards, and they are just absolute junk. And my father could even back my claim even further. He's gone through about another 3 or 4 keyboards on his iPad before something cosmetically breaks or just the Bluetooth craps out. Maybe the Apple keyboard can fix that. I really don't know. But all I'm saying is, for the time being, until Apple gives us a compelling reason to buy their keyboard over a third party's keyboard, and you know the third party, now that Apple has a keyboard, they're going to up their crap. So, really, there's no reason to buy an Apple keyboard. Just stick with a Belkin or a Zagkey or something like that. Just stick with that. Tenny, any other thoughts?
Not really for the keyboard.
Okay. Apple Pencil. This is basically Apple's take on a stylus. Samsung has had a stylus on their Note line for years. Trying to think, does LG... No, LG does not have a stylus yet. Surface does. So yeah, some other companies have done a stylus. Does Apple do a stylus any better? For what you're using it for, maybe. But, I don't know. Because, like, Microsoft does a stylus really well. And I think that, like, I don't know. I don't see Apple really doing enough with the idea, and really a lot with the phablet market. This is kind of my gripe even with the iPhone 6 Plus. They came out with a phablet, and what is it? Oh, it's like a bigger iPhone that you can use on its side. Okay, well, fine. Android has, like, multi-window support, and granted, the iPad has multi-window support, but it really doesn't take advantage of the canvas as much as I would have liked. I would have liked to see sort of like a windowed thing, sort of like on OS X, where you can like drag windows around and have even more multitasking. I mean, 2 gigs of RAM, you could probably manage it. But yeah, back to the Apple Pencil. I think it's a good idea. I'm glad that they did it, but I feel like there's a lot of missed potential. Tenny, any thoughts?
Not really.
All right.
Oh, the Apple Pencil. I feel like it's a part of the it also seems to have a little bit of the touch feature that the new iPhone is gonna have. Because if you press harder, it causes like a different kind of writing style.
Yeah, I think it's... Yeah, I don't think the iPad has Force Touch, though. Or, no, it's not called Force Touch. It's called 3D Touch. Professional... I'm sorry?
Just the, not really a force touch, just the way you use
Yeah,
the...
like how you, do that with the pen. I think Surface does that, though. So, Apple isn't really pioneering a whole lot with that, but... I don't know. Whatever. So, now we have, professional apps. And they were demoing Photoshop. This is what I've wanted out of an iPad for so long. Because Apple always has like, oh, you can make quick edits on the go with iMovie. But I don't want to make quick edits on the go. I want to use the iPad as a full-fledged editing machine. And not only that, I think there's a lot of things that could benefit from a touchscreen if they were ported from the iPad. Photoshop is one of those things, and they ported it, and it looks like that will probably be the make-or-break situation for the iPad. Apps like Photoshop, and there was even, like, they were even, like, photoshopping the smile a bit on the one model a bit. I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
Photoshop? Not really. It's a good feature, but that's about it. The iPad has not made too many new things besides getting bigger on the pencil.
Yeah, I suppose. Is there anything else? Oh yeah, there's also the iPad Mini 4, which is, I don't know. All they basically said is that it was a bit thinner, or a bit thinner and a bit lighter. I think that's all they're really doing with it. I don't think they're gonna up the processor at all. So, iPad Mini is still pretty dated, unfortunately. And the funny thing is that the iPad Mini 2, which is exactly the iPad Mini 4, pretty much, except maybe a little bit heavier and Touch ID. Same exact processor, same internals, but $100 less. Actually, I think even a little bit more than $100 less. So you may as well just get the iPad Mini 2. There is no reason to get this newer iPad unless you use Touch ID, which I really don't. I don't use Touch ID because I'm not a paranoid person. I will let a complete stranger look at my phone and go through what I have, okay? I don't care. And then we have the Apple TV, the new Apple TV. First of all, they completely rechanged the UI. Well, kind of. It seems sort of like the UI that they already had, but modernized a bit, and I guess there's like a wallpaper you can add in the back now, which I don't know if you can change the wallpaper, but the wallpaper they had in the promotional thing was kind of ugly in my opinion. They have a new... Oh, and some of the new apps are, like, also redesigned as well, like the iTunes Music, or, the iTunes Movies, TV shows, Apple Music. That's all been kind of repurposed into its own thing and not really, let's make everything look the same and not really have a lot of personality. And that actually segues perfectly into the next thing, the App Store. Apple TV now has an App Store, so that apps can have this personality. Like, if you go on, for example, if you use Netflix on the PlayStation, or on the Roku, or on the Xbox, it has a completely different UI as, say, YouTube, or, I don't know, Hulu, or Crackle, or something like that. It has a completely different UI. Apple TV's idea was basically make everything the same so that it's more user-friendly. Apple's kind of now revoking that and saying, no, you can have personality, you can build your own apps and do whatever, and do with it what you will. I really like that. I like that Apple is giving us personality, and I think that's pretty good. Um, what else do we have? Siri integration. Yes. Um, so there's now basically it's what Amazon has been doing, and I think a few other things too. Google might be doing that as well, but I can't remember. Either way, it's basically you can get certain like little. First of all, you can like navigate the UI, which I think is really nice. I want to see that actually on the Mac. I know something like that kind of exists, but it's a bit fiddly to kind of really work with it. Um, and you can also like check the weather. You can check sports scores. You can basically use it as with regular Siri on your iPhone or your Apple Watch or your iPad or whatever you choose. But it's on the Apple TV, and I think this is an area actually where Siri really shines because there was a demo where it was like, okay, search new movies. Skyfall comes up. Search James Bond movies. More James Bond movies come up. I want older James Bond movies. Show me James Bond movies with Sean Connery. Sean Connery James Bond films show up. I really like that kind of user friendliness that Siri adds. I think that voice recognition, as kind of shoddy as it might be in its early stages, I feel that it really has a lot of potential, and as we continue to kind of push the boundaries as far as like recognition improvements and technology, I feel that it will become more and more and more useful as time goes on. Tenny, do you have any thoughts so far?
The Apple TV is something that I've never even understood. Like, I did not know what it is. It wasn't a cable box. It wasn't a VCR. It wasn't anything that I've ever heard of. So, I mean...
It's like a streaming... It's like a media player.
Yeah.
The Apple TV itself has been out for a really long time. It's just they've reimagined it. It's just they've kind of like redid it a bit with a new UI and a new box.
Yeah. So, I mean... the good thing about it is like different from having regular TV. You have voice recognition. That's really nice. I think that's cool. And but I think that the new thing that they have, guilt, I think that's very unnecessary.
Yes, you can experience guilt right from your living room.
Guilt is the clothing store, I believe.
Yeah, it's like a clothing fashion online boutique. That was one of the apps they donated. I basically remember nothing from it, apart from you can experience guilt right from your living room. I just thought that was kind of funny, and I don't know if it was intentional or not. But... yeah, like, apps like Guilt, and apparently, okay, for example, I heard, rumors that Periscope is coming out with a new app. I would like that, because Periscope is an app where you can watch content creators create content. Whereas Guilt is like an online shopping thing, and I'm like, that's good, but I mean, if I want to go online shopping, or if I want to go shopping, I can use my iPhone, I can use an iPad, I can use a computer, I can use pretty much anything else. And in fact, even my personal preference is just go to a store. Really, it's just all the more easier, in my opinion. Because, I mean, like, what would you rather do? Wait 2 days for Amazon Prime to give you something, or wait 30 minutes to go to a Walmart and get something? Or, closer or further, your mileage may obviously vary. What else do we have? Gaming? Yes, there's now some games. Android TV has done this. Amazon TV has done this. Roku has done this. A few other similar services have done this. Basically, you can play kind of casual games with a sort of Wiimote-style controller. And, I don't know, I think it's cool. I would have liked to see an actual controller, though. Like, this touchscreen thing is nice, but I would have liked to see, perhaps, like, an Xbox or a Sony-style controller. Something like that for more hardcore games. So, like, maybe manufacturers like Activision could, like, port over, like, their first-person shooters or their, MMOs, RPGs, bigger games. And actually, that's another thing they were kind of pushing, too, is, kind of, like, pick up and play online. So, that's something else they were kind of pushing. I don't know. Any thoughts on the gaming?
Not really. I wouldn't game on the Apple TV, just on a regular game console.
I honestly don't know. I'd have to see some of the games that developers end up coming out with. There was one that was a port of a pretty popular, I guess, iPhone game called... Was it called Crossy Road?
I think so.
Yeah, Crossy Road. Yeah, it's basically Frogger, except you can have drop in and out multiplayer and punch your opponents to death. I guess that was kind of satisfying. Universal remote, yes, you can adjust the power and volume up and down on your remote. Touch panel, yes, that's what I was kind of saying. It's sort of a Wiimote-style controller. And instead of using, like, a D-pad and buttons, instead it decides to use, like, sort of a trackpad, if you will. Like, you kind of drag your finger around a trackpad. I don't know. I really don't know. I guess it depends how it works. It seems like something that would be kind of fiddly on something like that. But then again, I guess if you have Siri integrated, then that might improve it a little bit if you end up not liking the touch screen. I really don't know. It seems like something that from past experience, whenever something like that has been integrated, it has not really turned out well and has kind of been played off as a bit kind of finicky and annoying. Any thoughts?
Not very much on that.
Yeah, I mean, like, it might be... And, I mean, like, it might be okay for navigating the menu, even though... Even there, I would say it's a little bit... I don't know. A little bit clunky looking, but... For games, that's like, no, I would not game with a controller like that. And like, the difference, and they're saying, like, oh, it's just like a touchscreen, like your iPhone. No, an iPhone is now 4.7 inches and a big enough canvas to where you can actually game on it. If you're using, like, a remote control sized remote with, like, a tiny little touchpad that's even smaller than a computer's trackpad, then it's kind of a pain to use. That's, like, my personal experience with similar things. So, now we have the new iPhone, the 6S and 6S Plus. I was looking at the title, and I was like... Yeah, you may as well just write, like, a War and Peace style novel at this stage, with all of the... It's the iPhone 6! No, it's the iPhone 6S! No, it's the iPhone 6S Plus! Like... No. We don't need a novel on the front of our frickin' boxes, okay? 3D Touch. This was kind of the big flagship feature of this device. And it's sort of like Force Touch on the Apple Watch and on the new MacBooks, except, in my opinion, it's a lot more useful because it adds shortcuts. Like, for example, if you long hold, per se, on the phone app, you get direct shortcuts to your favorite contacts. Music, you can have, like, direct access to certain controls, listening to, like, some of your favorite bands. Your, maps, you have, you can have a shortcut to send you directly to home. There's various different shortcuts that you can use. And even within apps, you can, like, peek at certain things, you can... It's all pretty cool. And I quite like it. I think that when I get a 6S, which I probably will whenever my contract runs out, either that or I'm thinking, like, maybe a Moto X, just to kind of get, like, a stock Android thing, because I've tried stock Android, and it's pretty cool. I think it's kind of like the smart way... I want to say it's sort of like a more efficient way of doing widgets, but I don't think it's quite as good as widgets yet. But then again, I guess Apple does have widgets to a limited extent in the notification center, so... I don't know. Any thoughts on the 3D Touch?
I think the 3D Touch will be pretty useful for certain things. I mean, reading a message, that's pretty simple enough already. Reading an email is pretty simple enough already. Looking at a picture, that'll be a little bit more nice to use. Flipping through apps, that's nice. Yeah, it's not bad. It's convenient.
The one thing I will say is, like, the flipping through apps, I don't know if it's really that much more convenient to swipe up from the home screen, and even then it seems like it would be a bit fiddly. Yes, fiddly is my favorite word. Fiddly, fiddly, fiddly. It seems like it would be a bit fiddly and complex, and you might need to get used to it a little bit at first. But it seems like something that once you do get used to, you will find that you can't live without it. It's not going to be like Touch ID where it's like, oh, you use it for a week and then you disable it. It's going to be something like, I think it will actually change the way that you use your phone. And I kind of want to see, first of all, what Android does with this. Second of all, what third parties do with this. For example, we were already looking at how, Facebook, you can... write your status right from the home screen. With this Force Touch, it'll launch you directly into a specific area. I think that's really cool. I think it's super cool. You can... It's just a lot easier, in my opinion. It just makes sense. Camera. Yes, they have changed the camera. It's now 12 megapixels as opposed to 8, which they've been doing ever since the iPhone 4S, which is... a phone from 2011, so they basically had the same camera, just, I don't know, more light into the megapixels and a 1.2 aperture. I don't know, I'm not a photographer. But they've essentially had the same camera since the iPhone 4S. Now we're kind of making a jump. Is it a big jump? Not really, but Apple says that they, make it look good, and I think it actually does look good. From the pictures, anyway. Now, this is where I kind of call a bit naughty. Apple claims that those pictures that you see in the Apple event are not altered in any way. I kind of call BS, because it looks just a little bit too good to be true. And even if it is true, it also kind of looks a little bit oversaturated, as if it is kind of manually adjusted with an editor. What are your thoughts on the camera? Well, actually, hold on. First of all, let me go on to some other things. There's 4K video, which is really nice. There's a lot of Android phones that have been doing 4K video for a little while. finally nice to see that the iPhone can do it as well. And there's also live photos, which takes, what is it, like a second and a half of video, and it's eye candy. It's really eye candy. That's all I can say, but at least it's cool looking eye candy. What are your thoughts?
Usually, I hope that the pictures are actually in good quality, because usually when they showcase a new phone or a new product, they show such good quality, but then when you actually get it, it's not as good. It may turn shitty, it may actually be that way, but I think that they should. I think that it might be good, hopefully, if the quality is as good as they make it.
Yeah. I don't know, if it really is as good as they are displaying in the pictures, I say, you know, thumbs up to Apple. That is a very impressive looking camera, and does it give Android a run for its money? I guess I'm not experienced enough to really know. I'm not one of those people who owns like a whole bunch of phones and, you know, oh, I carry around a Galaxy phone and an HTC One and a Nokia and a no, I just have one phone, which right now is an iPhone 5S. And it is, I guess it's a competent enough camera for me. And that's really all I can say. I've heard good things about it, like a lot of Android cameras, though. So, I don't know. I guess I'll have to see, the actual reviews to see how it stacks up with, with competitors. We have design. Yes, there is a new aluminum back, and which I think might help a little bit with the bend gate issues with the iPhone 6 Plus. Because that was a big issue. A lot of people were having problems with the phones bending in their pocket, actually. If they're wearing, like, skinny jeans and they're wearing it in a back pocket, it'll bend. And I'll never forget this, how Apple handled that. It was like, oh, only like 7 or 8 people complained. No, it was trending on Twitter. There were more people, clearly, who had that problem. And you could say, like, oh, they're just, like, referencing, you know, Unbox Therapy, who did a viral video. But, like, you know, if I see a video, I'm not going to talk. If I see a video and it doesn't pertain to me, I'm not going to talk about it. It's like, it's not like I'm coming up on Facebook and I'm like, oh man, you know, this cat video really speaks to me. I don't know. And then there's a new color. There's the rose gold color, which was previously available on the Apple Watch. I don't know. I think it looks pretty cool. When I get the iPhone, I'm kind of thinking about the rose gold color. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, there's like this new thing where you can pay like $30-something a month to upgrade a phone for free every year. Except that's about... Really, I think that's only useful if you buy the phone unlocked. Because the iPhones unlocked are about, I don't know, $600, maybe more.
800.
Huh?
Usually $800.
Okay. $800 for an iPhone. And if you buy it for maybe about $400 a year, then that might actually be worth your while. It's not worth my while, though, because I have a 2-year contract where I only have to pay $200 for the low-end phone, and what is it? I don't know, probably about like $500 for the best of the best iPhone 6s Plus. So I don't know. I guess it's useful if you buy your phones unlocked. And that was about it. Oh yeah, and they played One Republic. Yeah, that group with like the one-hit wonder, right? Yeah. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Anything else to add before we leave?
Nope, we covered just about everything.
All right. Goodbye.
Hey Siri, give us a hint.